So in this deer scouting video series, we're going to talk about trail cameras. We're out here early season and we want to talk about the two big chunks of time where you're using trail cameras. The first is when you're inventorying your deer. The second is when you're actually trying to pattern and figure out where the deer are moving on a natural pattern. On an inventorying, when you're inventorying deer, really what you're talking about is you're setting up a camera and you're setting it up on a mineral site, a corn pile, something that's going to get those deer to come in and stop basically right in front of the camera. So when you're using a trail camera for that, you still want to find an area where the deer are likely to come, but you don't have to be right on the trail or anything like that because you're going to use something to draw them over. In those cases, you're going to want a trail camera that doesn't necessarily have a high trigger speed. You don't need it because they're going to stop. And you're going to want to use a lower delay on the camera because the deer are going to be in the camera a lot more often, and therefore you don't want to have like tons and tons and tons of pictures on the camera. So when you're inventorying deer, that's the key, is get some sort of bait out there like a mineral site. And if you want to know how to make your own mineral site at a really cheap price, check out this video right here. And if you want to go ahead and really start to get an idea of what deer are on your property, this is a really great way to use trail cameras. It doesn't take a ton of pictures, it doesn't take a ton of time, and it'll really help you out. The second big time period that you're going to use for trail cameras is when you're trying to, what we call case out a property, or you're trying to pattern your deer. Now, we don't actually shift our cameras from inventory mode into casing out mode until we get closer to the season because deer's pattern change drastically. But when we do that, now we're going to focus on the trails. You want to focus on intersection and pinch points. Those are critical because you can find a trail and put a camera on it and maybe get, I don't know, 10 pictures in a given day. But if you follow that trail a little further, now all of a sudden you find a pinch point or you find an intersection of two trails, now you're doubling, tripling, who knows, your pictures. So you want to make sure you pay attention to that. And then also another trick that you can use is to set the camera up going with the trail if at all possible. So if you have a camera that has a slower trigger speed, that's going to give that camera a little bit more time to react. If you have a faster trigger speed, it's not as critical, but that's one of the things that we tend to do. Another key point to remember is that when you're in case out mode, you want to have your pictures being taken at a higher frequency. And this will ensure that if there's a group of deer coming through, you're getting a picture of each one of those deer in case like the buck is the last picture, or maybe the first buck is a small buck and then you miss the picture of the big buck that was at the end. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility. Another thing you can do is put them into video mode. It's going to take more battery power, but in some cases it might be worth it if you've got just a picture or a video of deer coming through. Now you've got a little bit better idea what that group looks like. One other tip that we really highly recommend that you utilize is a 2 or 3 shot camera burst if you have that option. It's a really nice option to get a picture, multiple pictures of the deer in case one's blurry or there's something in the way, and it's just something that might get you a little bit better picture of that giant buck you've been looking for. When you're going to set up your cameras on the case out mode, what you want to do is use previous hunting patterns in order to figure that out. And what we do is we'll do winter walking, and if you want to see what that is, you can click here and check out this video. But that's one of the things that we do right towards the end of the season. We'll walk around and we'll try to figure out what the patterns are, and based on that, that's kind of our starting point for next year when we start hanging cameras. One tip that we want to give you that's made a huge difference for us is to start hanging the camera high. Now I'm about 6'4", and you can see that this camera is about eye level, almost over the top of my head on some of those things. So what that does is it gets the camera up out of the deer's range of their nose, and therefore you don't have those deer coming up and taking a picture and then walking closer and then all of a sudden the deer's face is right in the picture. I'm sure you all had pictures like that, and we have plenty of those pictures as well. But that's another tip, and it seemed to get us a little bit more pictures of bucks, which is nice. And what we do is we'll use a product called the wedge in order to angle the camera down, because it's critical that you really focus on your camera angle in that case, or we'll pick up a stick or an acorn or whatever else it is that's laying around that we can wedge in behind the camera in order to make sure that you've got that good angle. It takes a little bit more time to get the camera set up and angled correctly, but it makes a huge difference, and we really think it'll make you see a lot more bucks.
I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how we've applied these tactics to our one of our favorite properties that we call the honey hole today. What we did at this property, it's 16 acres, so not a ton of land, but it's all wooded, and again, it's one of our favorite properties where we get most of our deer activity. Where we got especially lucky on this property was the trail that we had found did branch off into a trail that we were already hunting this year and had seen some decent deer movement. So it was the perfect situation where we could come up here, do some hinge cutting on the pitch point, create it as a more of an attractive pinch point, and we were able to do a little bit of 2-for-1 in patterning deer and trying to inventory them on their fairly normal pattern throughout the year. One final touch that we're trying to make on this property in this location to just really hopefully make it kind of the perfect point on our property is we're trying to put in a micro food plot. We think we cleared down or knocked down enough trees during the hinge cutting to make sure that it's going to get enough sun to grow some clover. We'll see if that's going to take off or not. We're in the process right now of seeing some clover come up, so we're hoping that takes off. If it doesn't, we might make some minor adjustments on our hinge cutting next year just to enhance growth on that food plot. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about our approach to the micro food plots and how they can enhance even the small properties that you may be hunting, go ahead and click here. Just another little thing to pay attention to when you're hanging your camera. If you can help it, I recommend avoiding the sun as much as possible. The last thing that you want are a bunch of sun shots of empty trail cam pictures just from the sun and reflections and the way it's shining off a different object. One final suggestion, make sure you turn the trail camera on and set it to the right date and time.
I hope you liked this video on trail cameras. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to shoot them to us with a comment on the video. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to check out some of our other videos around. Thanks for watching.